Ladies and gentlemen, time is the one resource that every single one of us has in equal measure. 24 hours in a day. No more, no less. Yet, how we choose to use those hours defines the quality of our life, our success, and our legacy. Time management is not just about calendars, alarms, or schedules. It's about discipline, priorities, and purpose. When you manage your time, you're really managing your life. Of all the lessons in time management, the first and perhaps most transformative is learning to truly value every single minute. Time is the most democratic resource in existence. No matter who you are, where you were born, or what circumstances you face, you wake up with 24 hours. That's the same gift given to the greatest leaders, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most brilliant thinkers, and the most creative artists. The difference lies not in how much time they were given, but in how they chose to spend it. When you begin to look at time as currency, as something with weight and worth, you begin to shift the way you approach each day. You wouldn't casually throw money into the fire or hand it away for nothing in return. So why do so many people let their minutes slip away without thought? The truth is, the seconds you let go without purpose are the opportunities you'll never reclaim. Think about how people often say, "I don't have time," but in reality what they're saying is, "That is not my priority." Time itself doesn't vanish. It is spent either intentionally or recklessly. Imagine each hour as a deposit placed into your hands at the start of the day. How you invest it determines what kind of return you will get. Do you spend it scrolling endlessly through distraction? Do you waste it worrying about what others think? Or do you invest it into learning, into building, into connecting with people who inspire growth? The habit of respecting your minutes is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Now, valuing time is not about rushing through life. It's about being deliberate with what you do. When you walk into a meeting, when you sit down to study, when you share a meal with loved ones, be fully there. A minute of presence is far more valuable than an hour of distraction. Some people pride themselves on being busy, but busyness does not always equal productivity. You can spend an entire day running around and still achieve nothing of real value. But if you approach your time like an investor, seeking the greatest return on each action, then even a single focused hour can produce results that move your life forward. Ask yourself regularly, if my time were money, would I be proud of how I spent it today? This question holds power because it forces you to be honest about whether you are living on purpose or simply letting the hours drift away. Time is life's most unforgiving teacher. It gives the test first and the lesson afterward. Once a minute passes, it is gone forever. And unlike money, there is no earning it back. This reality may sound harsh, but it's also liberating, because it means you have the choice right now to stop wasting and start investing. When you begin to value every minute, you naturally start to treat yourself with greater respect. You no longer tolerate distractions disguised as opportunity. You stop spending endless hours in places that drain your energy and surround yourself instead with people, tasks, and environments that multiply your potential. You start to realize that 5 minutes spent on personal growth can be more powerful than 5 hours lost in aimless chatter. You become intentional, not by chance but by design. And over time, the compound effect of all those wisely invested minutes builds into a life filled with meaning, impact, and success. Remember, life is not measured by the length of years, but by the richness of what you do with them. Some live 80 years but only truly live for 10 of them, because they spent the rest merely existing. Others live fewer years but manage to create change, inspire others, and leave behind a legacy simply because they refuse to treat time as cheap. Your minutes are precious, your hours are powerful, and your days are priceless. To value every minute is to value your future. So guard your time, invest it with purpose, and make every single moment count. You said, if valuing every minute is the foundation of time management, then setting clear priorities is the structure that allows you to build something meaningful with those minutes. Without priorities, even the most disciplined use of time can still lead you down paths that don't serve your greater purpose. The truth is, not everything in life deserves equal attention. Some tasks may scream for your immediate focus, but they add little to your growth. Others may sit quietly in the background, yet they carry the weight of shaping your future. The skill lies in learning to separate what is urgent from what is important. That distinction changes everything. Too often, people find themselves busy but not effective. Their schedules are packed, but their hearts remain unfulfilled. They chase deadlines, answer every call, reply to every message, attend every request, and then wonder why they feel drained instead of accomplished. The reason is simple. When you allow others to dictate your priorities, you become a passenger in your own life. You might move quickly, but not necessarily toward the destination that matters to you. Setting clear priorities requires courage, because it means you will have to say no to things that might look good but do not align with your goals. Imagine carrying a jar and filling it first with sand. The grains seem small, insignificant, but they quickly take up all the space. Then when you try to put in the larger rocks, the things that truly matter, there's no room left. But if you start with the big rocks, the essentials, then the sand can settle around them without stealing the space. This is exactly how priorities work. If you don't decide what your big rocks are, your health, your growth, your relationships, your purpose, the sand of life, all the little distractions will consume every moment. Priorities protect what matters most. The challenge is that priorities are deeply personal. What is vital for you may not hold the same weight for someone else. That's why clarity is essential. Take the time to reflect on what genuinely moves you closer to the life you want to live. Is it education? Is it building a business? Is it nurturing your family? Once you identify those few guiding stars, you can begin aligning your choices with them. Each decision becomes simpler when measured against your priorities. Does this move me closer or farther away from what I value? There will always be people and tasks competing for your time. Emails will continue to pour in, opportunities will knock, and distractions will whisper. But not every invitation deserves your acceptance. Every yes you give is also a no to something else, often something more important. By being selective, by holding firm to your priorities, you gain control over your direction, instead of drifting wherever the current takes you. And this is where true fulfillment begins, when your actions each day reflect the things that matter most to you. It's also important to remember that priorities are not fixed forever. Life changes, and so will your goals. What was urgent 5 years ago may not even matter today. This means you must revisit your priorities regularly, adjusting them with honesty and courage. The discipline lies not only in choosing, but also in reevaluating. You don't want to spend years climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. When you set clear priorities, something powerful happens. Time begins to stretch. The same 24 hours suddenly feel different, because you are no longer scattering them everywhere. You are directing them with purpose. You discover that progress comes not from doing everything, but from doing the right things consistently. Your schedule becomes a reflection of your values, and your life becomes a testament to your clarity. In the end, the question is not whether you are busy, but whether you are busy with what truly matters. Priorities are the compass that ensures your minutes and hours carry you toward a life worth living. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people hear the word and immediately think of restriction, of rules, of something that takes away freedom. But the reality is the opposite. Discipline is what actually creates freedom. Without it, time slips through your fingers. Life becomes reactive instead of intentional, and you find yourself pulled in directions you never chose. With it, you gain control over your days, your goals, and ultimately your future. Discipline is the bridge between valuing your minutes and living by your priorities, because it is the practice of turning intention into consistent action. Consider this. Everyone has moments of motivation. It's easy to feel inspired after hearing a powerful message, reading a book, or setting a new goal. But motivation by its very nature comes and goes. Some mornings you wake up eager to conquer the world, and other mornings you struggle to even get out of bed. This is where discipline steps. Discipline doesn't rely on feelings. It relies on commitment. It says, I will do what I said I would do, regardless of how I feel in this moment. That steady commitment, repeated over time, is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Think of an athlete preparing for a championship. They don't just train when they feel like it. They wake up early, push through fatigue, follow a strict routine, and practice with precision. Why? Because discipline builds habits, and habits build results. The same principle applies to any area of life. If you want to excel in studies, in business, in health, or in personal growth, discipline will be the key that unlocks progress. It doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens through small, repeated steps that compound into something extraordinary. What many fail to realize is that discipline doesn't take away your freedom. It gives it back. Without discipline, You become a slave to distractions, procrastination, and emotions. You end up working in chaos, constantly behind, constantly overwhelmed. But with discipline, you create structure. You know when you'll work, when you'll rest, when you'll invest in yourself. This structure reduces stress, increases focus, and frees you to use your time in ways that truly matter. In other words, discipline is not a prison. It is the framework that allows you to live more fully. Of course, discipline isn't easy. It demands sacrifice. It requires you to give up comfort in exchange for growth. It asks you to delay gratification, to resist temptations, and to stay consistent, even when no one is watching. But every sacrifice you make through discipline returns to you multiplied. The hours spent studying now create the freedom of choice later. The moments spent exercising now grant you the freedom of health later. The time spent building good habits now gives you the freedom to live a life not controlled by regret. And discipline doesn't mean perfection. It's not about never slipping up or never facing setbacks. It's about persistence. Even if you stumble, discipline calls you back to your path. It reminds you of your priorities and pushes you to keep moving forward. Over time, that resilience builds strength, not just in your actions, but in your character. There's also something deeply empowering about knowing you can rely on yourself. Discipline builds self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you prove that your words carry weight. You prove that you are capable of directing your own life, instead of being controlled by circumstance. That self-trust is what breeds confidence, and confidence is what allows you to take on bigger challenges without fear. When you embrace discipline, you stop living at the mercy of time. You start shaping it, commanding it, and making it serve your purpose. It is discipline that turns your hours into progress, and your progress into freedom. So choose discipline, because discipline is the path to freedom. One of the greatest challenges of time management is learning to eliminate wasted time. It sounds simple, but in practice, it requires honesty, discipline, and courage. Every day we are bombarded with distractions that pull us away from what truly matters. They arrive in the form of endless scrolling on phones, conversations that add no value, commitments made out of guilt rather than purpose, and tasks that keep us busy but not productive. The tragedy is that wasted time often disguises itself as something harmless or even urgent, and before you realize it, hours have slipped through your hands with nothing meaningful to show for them. The first step in eliminating wasted time is becoming aware of. Many people move through their day unaware of how much time is quietly drained by habits they don't even notice. Checking social media for just a minute that turns into an hour, watching one video that leads to 10 more, saying yes to every request, even when it doesn't align with your goal. Each of these moments seems small, but together they create a pattern that steals your days. Awareness shines a light on these patterns, and only then can you begin to change them. But cutting out wasted time isn't only about removing distractions, it's also about protecting your focus. When your attention is scattered, even important tasks take longer than they should. Multitasking may seem efficient, but in truth it often doubles the effort while having the result. Focus is where progress happens, and focus requires the courage to shut out everything that isn't moving you forward. It's the discipline of saying, not now, to things that may look appealing but aren't serving your mission in this moment. Of course, this doesn't mean every second of your life must be filled with serious work. Rest, relaxation, and leisure are not wasted time. They are necessary investments in your well-being. What truly counts as waste is time spent on things that leave you feeling empty, activities that consume your energy without adding joy, growth, or value. The difference between purposeful rest and wasted time is how you feel afterward. Rest renews you, waste drains you. When you learn to distinguish between the two, you begin to reclaim your hours. There is also a powerful ripple effect when you remove wasted time. Suddenly, you uncover hidden pockets of opportunity in your day. You find extra minutes to read, to learn, to plan, or to connect with someone who inspires you. These moments, once buried under distractions, now become stepping stones toward your goals. It's like clearing away clutter in a room. You create space for clarity, creativity, and progress. Eliminating wasted time also demands the strength to say no. Many people struggle with this because they fear disappointing others, but every unnecessary yes is also a silent no to your own priorities. Protecting your time is not selfish, it's an act of responsibility. When you say no to what doesn't matter, you are saying yes to your growth, your goals, and your future. Over time, people come to respect those boundaries, and you begin to attract relationships and opportunities that align with your purpose instead of distracting you from it. It's worth remembering that wasted time doesn't always look like laziness. Sometimes it shows up as overcommitting, trying to do everything, or chasing tasks that give the illusion of progress, but lead nowhere. You can work tirelessly all day and still waste time if the work you're doing is not aligned with what truly matters. Eliminating waste means being strategic, not just busy. Each of us is given only so many hours, and once they are gone, they cannot be recovered. That truth should create urgency, but also clarity. When you strip away what doesn't matter, you make room for what does. And in that space you find not only productivity but peace, because you know you are spending your time with intention. So cut out the waste, guard your focus, and give your minutes only to the things that truly deserve them. When people think about time management, they often imagine filling every second with work, pushing themselves harder, and maximizing output until there is nothing left to give. But true mastery of time is not just about productivity, it's also about balance. Without balance, even the most ambitious goals lose meaning. The human mind and body are not machines. They need rhythm. They need pauses. They need moments to reach. And this is where the importance of balancing work and rest comes into play. We live in a world that glorifies busyness. People wear exhaustion as a badge of honor, as if being constantly tired is proof of dedication. But burning out is not the same as being committed. In fact, running yourself into the ground robs you of the very energy and clarity you need to perform at your best. Imagine a phone constantly running on low battery. It may still function, but not at full capacity, and eventually, it shuts down completely. The same applies to us. When we neglect rest, we run on fumes, and no amount of ambition can compensate for the loss of strength and focus. Rest is not wasted time. It is the foundation for sustained excellence. Some of the most successful thinkers, innovators, and leaders in history understood this deeply. They worked with intensity, yes, but they also carved out space to reflect, to step back, to restore their minds and bodies. This rhythm of work and renewal allows creativity to flow, solutions to appear, and productivity to remain consistent over the long term. Without it, you may sprint too quickly, but you won't finish the marathon. Balance also means knowing how to shift gears. There are moments to push, to grind, to give everything you've got, but there are also moments to pause, to be present with family, to take care of your health, to simply breathe. It's in those pauses that perspective comes. You start to see your challenges differently. Problems that once seemed impossible to solve reveal answers when you return with a rested mind. Balance is not just about preventing exhaustion, it's about sharpening your ability to use time wisely, like keeping yourself at your best. Another part of balance is learning to align your rest with purpose. Rest is not just lying on a couch doing nothing, though sometimes that's needed too. Rest can be reading something that inspires you, walking in nature, meditating, or engaging in a hobby that brings joy. These moments restore you not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. They remind you that life is not only about achieving goals, but also about experiencing it fully. When you build balance into your life, you also set an example for others. You show that success does not require self-destruction, that it is possible to chase dreams without neglecting health, relationships, or peace of mind. You demonstrate that time well managed is not time crammed with endless activity, but time spent in harmony, pushing forward with purpose, resting with intention, and living with awareness. The real danger of ignoring balance is that without rest, even your victories feel empty. What good is achieving career success if your health is broken? What good is wealth if you have no strength left to enjoy it? What good is reaching your goals if the journey leaves you disconnected from the people you love. Balance reminds us that success is not only about what we accomplish, but also about who we become along the way. Time management, at its core, is about quality, not just quantity, and the quality of your time improves dramatically when you learn to balance effort with renewal. You don't need to spend every moment working to build a meaningful life. You need to spend the right moments working with focus, and the right moments resting with intention. That is how you sustain progress, maintain joy, and create a life that feels whole. So protect your energy, honor your rest, and remember that balance is not the enemy of ambition, but its greatest ally. At the heart of time management lies a truth that is often overlooked. Every hour we spend is not just a piece of our schedule, but a piece of our life. When we talk about using time wisely, it's not only about getting more done or being more efficient, it's about what those hours ultimately add up to when the story of our life is told. That's why the final measure of time management is not simply productivity, but legacy. It is about leaving behind something that outlives us, something that speaks for us long after we are gone. Think about how quickly a day passes. The sun rises, the hours rush by, and before you know it, another night falls. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and years become a lifetime. The question is, what will those years mean when you look back? Will they be filled with memories of drifting through routines, or will they tell the story of someone who lived intentionally, who used time as a tool to build, to love, to contribute, and to make a difference? That choice is made not in one grand moment, but in the small daily decisions of how you spend your time. Leaving a legacy doesn't always mean changing the entire world in a dramatic way. It can be as simple as shaping the world of those around you. The lessons you teach your children, the kindness you show to others, the work you dedicate yourself to, and the values you live by. All of these are marks of your time. Every conversation, every effort, every act of discipline, and every moment of presence leaves an imprint, and those imprints, when combined, create the legacy that people will remember. Time management, then, is really life management. It asks us to decide what truly matters, and to give our time to those. It challenges us to think about the long-term impact of our choices, not just the short-term comfort. You may spend hours chasing temporary pleasures or distractions, but when the years pass, those hours will mean little. On the other hand, if you invest those hours in growth, in meaningful work, in relationships, and in serving something greater than yourself, then those same hours become a foundation for a legacy that lasts. What makes this powerful is realizing that your legacy is being written right now, not someday in the future. Too many people believe they'll start living with intention later, when the conditions are better, when they have more resources, or when the timing feels right. But time doesn't wait. Every day you delay is a page already written, and once written, it cannot be erased. That's why it is urgent to start now, to decide today how you want to be remembered, and to align your minutes with that vision. It's also worth remembering that legacy is not measured by size, but by significance. Some people may leave behind books, inventions, or movements that shape history. Others may leave behind love, wisdom, and guidance that shape families and communities. Both are legacies. Both matter. What unites them is that they come from a life where time was not squandered, but spent with intention and purpose. When you begin to think of time in this way, each moment becomes more precious. You stop wasting it on petty conflicts, on distractions that add nothing, on chasing approval that doesn't matter. Instead, you start asking, is this how I want to be remembered? Is this worth part of my limited time on earth? That shift in perspective brings clarity and power. It reminds you that your life is not just about the number of days you live, but about what you do with those days. Time is the raw material from which your legacy is built. And when the final chapter of your life is written, the measure of your success will not be how many hours you had, but how you used them. So live with intention, spend your minutes wisely, and let your time speak for you long after you are gone.